Marcus Aurelius, one of the most respected Roman emperors and Stoic philosophers, is still an inexhaustible source of wisdom today. In his best-known work, Meditations, he shares his personal reflections and philosophical teachings, which were, in fact, daily exercises to maintain serenity and virtue amid the difficulties of his reign. For Marcus Aurelius, life was a battlefield of internal and external battles, and true strength lay not in controlling circumstances, but in our ability to cultivate a disciplined and resilient mind. In uncertain times like the ones we are currently experiencing, Marcus Aurelius' Stoic philosophy offers a powerful refuge for those seeking to strengthen their minds and develop resilience in the face of adversity. He teaches us that hardships are inevitable, but our response to them is what truly defines our destiny. His teachings are not just for philosophers, but for all of us, from those who face daily challenges to those who seek a more balanced and fulfilling life. In this video, we'll explore Marcus Aurelius' key lessons on inner strength and resilience, understanding how he dealt with adversity and how we can apply these Stoic principles to our own lives. Stoic philosophy doesn't promise us an easy path, but rather a path of wisdom and tranquility in the face of hardship. If you're looking to find inner peace in times of chaos, Marcus Aurelius' lessons are a valuable guide to transforming adversity into an opportunity for growth. Before we start, how about subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any videos? Let's go! Self-control is one of the fundamental pillars of Stoic philosophy and was one of Marcus Aurelius' most admired qualities. He believed that, in the face of any adversity, true strength lies in our ability to control our reactions. For him, the external world, with its storms and difficulties, is something that is beyond our control. What we can control, however, are our internal responses and how we choose to react to situations. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius often reminded us that what troubles us is not the events themselves, but how we interpret them. He said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This Stoic philosophy teaches us that by cultivating self-control, we can transform challenging situations into moments of learning and growth. In times of suffering or hardship, the first impulse is often to react impulsively, with anger or despair. Marcus Aurelius, however, reminds us that true strength lies in taking a deep breath, reflecting, and choosing our responses. This practice of self-control does not mean suppressing emotions, but understanding that we are not hostages to them. We can have our feelings, but we can also choose how to deal with them. In a world where we are constantly exposed to external stimuli, whether at work, in relationships, or even on social media, self-control becomes essential to preserve our inner peace and develop the resilience needed to face adversity with clarity. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that true freedom lies in the ability to maintain control over our mind, even when the chaos around us tries to dominate us. One of the most powerful teachings of Marcus Aurelius, and of Stoicism in general, is the clear distinction between what we can and cannot control. The philosopher-emperor teaches us that the key to a peaceful and resilient life is not in fighting the uncontrollable, but in accepting what we cannot change and focusing our energy on what is within our control. In his Meditations, he often reflected on the ephemerality of life and the inevitability of events beyond our control, such as death, fate, and the actions of others. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we cannot control external circumstances, such as our health, the behavior of others, or even the challenges that come our way. What we can control, however, is our attitude toward these events. As he said, "You have power over your mind, not over events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This mindset of acceptance does not mean passivity or resignation. On the contrary, it means recognizing that fighting the uncontrollable only creates unnecessary suffering. This Stoic acceptance allows us to free our energy from useless worries and direct it towards what we can truly influence: our actions, our choices, and our thoughts. In difficult times, instead of despairing or trying to control something beyond our strength, we can practice active acceptance. This helps us remain serene in the face of adversity, keeping our resilience intact and our inner peace preserved. When we accept that some things are beyond our control, we are freer to focus on what really matters. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that emotional freedom comes precisely from this acceptance of the inevitable, which allows us to react in a wise and balanced way. The concept of memento mori, remember that you will die, is one of the most powerful practices that Marcus Aurelius used to maintain his resilience and inner strength in the face of life's adversities. Mortality, for him, was not something to be feared or ignored, but something to be constantly reminded of so that we could live more authentically and fully. By reflecting on the inevitability of death, Marcus Aurelius invites us to question what is truly important in life and how we should spend our time. At its core, the practice of memento mori is a tool for reevaluating our priorities and ensuring that our actions are aligned with our deepest values. By keeping death in mind, we are reminded that time is precious and finite. Through this reflection, the small worries and adversities of everyday life lose the weight we normally give them, and we focus on what really matters, living with virtue and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius used this practice as a way to avoid clinging to superficialities and not despair in the face of challenges. When he faced a crisis or a moment of great difficulty, he would remind himself of his own mortality and thus be able to maintain a balanced perspective. He knew that, regardless of the circumstances, life was fleeting, and the only thing he could truly control was his attitude towards it all. Accepting death frees us from the fear it imposes on us, allowing us to live more fully. When we understand and accept that death is inevitable, we can finally let go of the anxieties that paralyze us and act with courage, love, and wisdom. This perspective is not an invitation to despair, but a liberation from the tyranny of fear, allowing us to be resilient even in the most challenging situations. Marcus Aurelius, as a fervent practitioner of Stoic philosophy, believed that reason was the greatest tool available for mastering emotions and maintaining composure in the face of adversity. For him, true strength lay not in giving in to emotional impulses, but in using reason to evaluate, respond, and act in a balanced manner. In his meditations, he constantly reminded himself that reason should be our guide, and that by using it, we could remain calm even in the most turbulent situations. In times of crisis, our first reaction is often emotional. We may feel anger, sadness, anxiety, or fear. These emotions are natural, but Marcus Aurelius teaches us that instead of acting impulsively on them, we should stop, reflect, and use reason to analyze the situation and determine the best response. He said, "The soul is defiled by impure and confused thoughts, but it is purified by clear and true thoughts." Reason, therefore, allows us to choose our response rather than being controlled by emotions. This is crucial to developing resilience, as emotions can drag us into a state of disarray. But reason gives us the power to assess the situation objectively, allowing us to act with discernment and focus. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that we cannot control external events, but we can always control how we respond to them. He saw emotions as something to be observed and understood, not something that should govern our actions. Instead of reacting emotionally to criticism or adversity, he sought to reflect rationally on the situation, find what could be learned, and react calmly. This process is what allows for true inner strength and, at the same time, resilience in the face of life's difficulties. The Stoic virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation, are fundamental to building inner strength and resilience. Marcus Aurelius believed that true resilience to suffering comes not from physical strength or emotional response, but from practicing the virtues that help us maintain our dignity and balance, even in the most difficult situations. Wisdom, for example, allows us to assess a situation clearly without being carried away by impulses or mistaken beliefs. When we face difficulties, it is wisdom that helps us discern what is within our reach and what is beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of being rational, of having a broader perspective of the situation, without allowing ourselves to be overcome by the immediacy of emotions. Courage is another essential virtue, as it is what allows us to face suffering with dignity. It is not just about physical courage, but also moral and emotional courage. Having the courage to face difficulties without giving in to despair or fear. Marcus Aurelius believed that the true hero is not the one who fights a physical enemy, but the one who maintains his moral integrity in times of adversity. Justice, in turn, reminds us to act impartially, treating everyone with respect, regardless of the difficulties we may be facing. This helps us maintain healthy relationships and preserve our inner peace. The practice of justice, for Marcus Aurelius, is linked to our ability to see the good in everyone and act according to the highest principles, even when we are tempted to retaliate or get angry. Moderation teaches us to balance our desires and not to let ourselves be dominated by excesses. In times of suffering, moderation is crucial to avoid succumbing to addictions or self-destructive behaviors. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that true strength lies in not being controlled by our desires, but in maintaining balance and acting with temperance. One of Marcus Aurelius' most profound lessons is that even in suffering, we can find a greater purpose. For him, adversities were not mere coincidences or random events, but opportunities for growth and strengthening of the soul. In his meditations, he reflects on how every hardship and every pain is a chance to practice virtue, to perfect our inner strength, and to improve as human beings. For Marcus Aurelius, life's challenges should not be viewed as punishments or unfair events, but as opportunities to develop resilience. He wrote frequently about the importance of keeping one's mind focused on purpose, rather than giving in to the temptation to view suffering as something negative. He believed that by approaching each difficult situation with a growth mindset, one can find purpose even in the most painful experiences. This Stoic perspective doesn't ignore pain or suffering, but encourages us to face it head-on and find the value it can bring to our journey. Instead of focusing on loss or frustration, we should ask ourselves, what can this experience teach me? How can it make me a stronger, wiser, more resilient person? Stoic resilience is not the ability to avoid suffering, but the ability to transform it into something positive. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that it is in adversity that we often discover our true strength. Suffering, therefore, is not an end in itself, but a part of the ongoing process of personal growth and improvement. By embracing this perspective, we can be more resilient and find purpose in our lives even in hardship. Marcus Aurelius believed that daily reflection was one of the most powerful practices for developing inner strength and resilience. In his meditations, he constantly reflected on his own actions, thoughts, and emotions, seeking to identify areas where he could improve. For him, this practice was not just an occasional task, but a daily discipline that strengthened his mind and prepared him for the challenges of everyday life. Stoic reflection involves the ability to look within and examine our reactions and attitudes, especially when faced with difficulties. Marcus Aurelius took time each day to review his thoughts and actions, assessing whether they were in line with his Stoic values and principles. By reflecting on the situations of the day, he was able to distance himself from impulsive emotions and rationally analyze his reactions. This practice of self-examination helps us understand ourselves better and grow as human beings. This practice is a vital tool for developing self-awareness, allowing us to identify our weaknesses and actively work to transform them. Marcus Aurelius saw reflection as a way to not only deal with external difficulties, but also to become better people by addressing the internal struggles we all face. For him, true growth occurs when we are able to look at our own mistakes and successes with honesty and humility. By incorporating the practice of daily reflection into our lives, we can become more resilient as we become better able to identify our strengths and weaknesses. Additionally, reflection helps us ensure that our actions are in line with our values, which in turn strengthens our inner strength. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel to continue receiving content like this, okay? Another concept that is widespread in Stoicism is the idea of indifference to external things, a central tenet in the philosophies of Marcus Aurelius. For him, external circumstances, be it the behavior of other people, fortune, or life situations, are beyond our control and therefore should not be the source of our happiness or suffering. True inner peace and resilience come from focusing on the things we can control, which are our attitudes, reactions, and decisions. Marcus Aurelius taught that in order to achieve a state of tranquility, we must learn to detach ourselves from external distractions and focus on what is essential. In his meditations, he constantly reflected on how the opinions of others, criticism and praise, or the uncertainties of everyday life should not influence our inner peace. He said, "Do not be disturbed by what others do, because your soul should not be a thing subject to the power of others." Indifference does not mean ignoring responsibilities or being disinterested, but rather recognizing that many things are beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that our inner peace should not depend on the external world, but on our ability to govern our minds and maintain our virtue regardless of the circumstances around us. Cultivating this healthy indifference helps us maintain calm and clarity even when the world around us seems chaotic. This practice of indifference is vital to developing resilience, because by freeing ourselves from the influence of external factors, we are able to face adversity with more balance. Instead of reacting emotionally to criticism or failures, we learn to remain calm and objective, focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminds us that true strength does not come from the absence of difficulties, but from the ability to act virtuously even in adversity. In his meditations, he reflects on how, in the most difficult moments, we are challenged to maintain our integrity and act according to our principles, regardless of external circumstances. For him, living according to virtue was the only path to true happiness, and this becomes even more important when we face challenges. Virtue, in the Stoic context, does not refer to perfect or idealized behaviors, but to living according to the principles of wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation, which are essential for our personal and moral development. Marcus Aurelius believed that by acting virtuously, we not only maintain our dignity, but also become more resilient in the face of adversity. When we are challenged by life, it is the practice of virtue that gives us the strength to continue and to act constructively, rather than reacting impulsively or negatively. Acting virtuously in times of adversity means remaining calm under pressure, making fair and rational decisions, having the courage to do what is right, and practicing moderation in times of crisis. Marcus Aurelius taught us that even in the face of the most intense difficulties, we must choose to act wisely and maintain inner serenity, because this is how we can face challenges constructively and become better people. By acting virtuously, we become more than just resilient. We become people of character, capable of overcoming any adversity with dignity. True inner strength comes from our daily commitment to virtue, and it is virtue that guides us through life's most difficult moments. Marcus Aurelius also encourages us to reflect on how the desire to control every aspect of our lives, or to achieve immediate success, can be a trap for our inner peace and resilience. He believed that the relentless pursuit of control over the outcomes of life is one of the main sources of suffering. In his meditations, he teaches us that although we may have a desire to achieve certain goals, true freedom comes from freeing ourselves from the need to control everything and accepting that not everything is under our influence. Life is, at its core, unpredictable, and many things are beyond our control. The opinions of others, external events, the future. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on this reality, concluded that our inner peace and strength cannot be based on the desire to achieve specific results or to control every aspect of life. Instead, we must focus our energy on acting correctly in the present moment, in accordance with our values, without worrying about controlling the results. He said, "Spend no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." When we free ourselves from this obsession with control and success, our mind becomes calmer and stronger as we begin to focus on what we can truly control: our attitudes, choices, and reactions. Marcus Aurelius invites us to act diligently and wisely, without worrying about the approval or recognition of others. Right action is more important than the relentless pursuit of success or concrete results. When we practice this liberation from the desire for control, We become more resilient because our happiness no longer depends on what happens around us, but on our ability to act according to virtue, regardless of the circumstances. One of the most transformative lessons Marcus Aurelius left us was the idea that hardships and adversities are opportunities for personal growth. Instead of seeing difficult times as insurmountable obstacles, he taught us to see each challenge as a chance to develop our virtues and become stronger. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on how suffering and challenges are inevitable in life, but also fundamental to our personal development. In his meditations, he reminds us that every hardship carries with it a lesson, and that by facing these moments with wisdom and courage, we can grow and learn more about ourselves. Rather than resisting or lamenting adversity, Marcus Aurelius suggests that we should embrace it as an opportunity for development. For him, nothing is as valuable as the chance to test our virtues and see how far we can go when faced with difficulties. Embracing difficulties as opportunities requires a change in perspective. It is not about minimizing pain or suffering, but about recognizing that challenges are a natural part of life, and that when faced with courage and wisdom, they make us more resilient and stronger. Marcus Aurelius believed that by practicing virtue in the face of adversity, we can learn more about our true nature and strengthen our soul. By following the Stoic philosophy, our resilience becomes even stronger, as we are no longer running away from difficulties, but facing them with a clear purpose of growth. Pain and challenges are no longer seen as punishments, and are instead seen as tools to improve ourselves and achieve our true inner strength. Marcus Aurelius constantly emphasized the importance of living in the present as a key way to strengthen our resilience and cultivate unshakable inner peace. The human mind has a natural tendency to worry about the past or the future, but these worries take our energy away from the present moment, the only moment we truly have control over. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that our focus should be on the actions and decisions we can take now, rather than on something that has already happened or that may never happen. For him, the practice of living in the present was not just an abstract philosophy, but a practical way of dealing with everyday challenges. When we focus on the here and now, we are able to act more rationally and in line with our values, without being distracted by what has already happened or what might come. Marcus Aurelius believed that true peace of mind comes from the ability to remain focused on the present moment, accepting things as they are, and adapting our actions according to the circumstances. By practicing connecting with the present, we are better able to let go of unnecessary worries that cause anxiety and stress. Instead of getting lost in past frustrations or future fears, we find strength in the action we take now. Marcus Aurelius said that our lives are short, and most of them are wasted worrying about what we cannot change. Practicing mindfulness is an antidote to this, allowing us to focus on what really matters, what we can do right now. Living fully in the present is a powerful exercise in resilience, as it strengthens our ability to face challenges with balance and clarity, without being consumed by mental distractions. Self-control, from Marcus Aurelius, is one of the essential pillars for building true inner strength. In his meditations, he insists that the ability to govern our own emotions and desires is what separates us from impulsive reactions and puts us on the path to true freedom. Stoicism teaches us that although we cannot control everything that happens around us, we can choose how we react. Self-control is the ability to act rationally and in accordance with our principles, even when intense emotions drive us to thoughtless actions. Marcus Aurelius, with his practical philosophy, invites us to observe our emotions and desires without being dominated by them. Self-mastery is not a denial of emotions, but the ability to not be enslaved by them. Instead of allowing anger, fear, or excessive desire to direct our actions, we must take a step back, reflect, and act with serenity and wisdom. He writes that happiness depends on us, for our reactions are under our control. This awareness that we are responsible for our responses, rather than being victims of our emotions, is liberating. Practicing self-mastery requires discipline and constant vigilance. However, it is through this practice that we achieve control over our own mind and it is this freedom that gives us true inner peace. When we are able to master our impulses, we find the strength to act ethically, keeping our integrity intact regardless of external circumstances. With self-mastery, we are more resilient because we are not easily shaken by external events. Instead, our ability to remain calm and act according to reason makes us stronger in the face of adversity. For Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on death was not a way to be morbid or hopeless, but a way to live with greater clarity and purpose. In his meditations, he frequently recalled that life is short and death is inevitable, a truth he saw as a motivation to live more authentically and in alignment with virtue. Death, as he saw it, is not something to be feared, but something that teaches us to value the present, to enjoy each moment, and to act in accordance with our values. By accepting mortality, we are able to face life's challenges with greater courage and resilience. When we know that our time is limited, we become less concerned with trivial concerns and external distractions and focus on what really matters: living virtuously. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that by reflecting on death, we can appreciate life more deeply and make decisions that are aligned with our highest values. Accepting death also helps us let go of fear and anxiety. When we understand that death is not something to be avoided, but rather a natural part of the cycle of existence, we can live with more peace and determination. Marcus Aurelius said, "Death is not a tragedy. Tragedy is life not lived fully." By accepting our finitude, we can live more fully, with greater focus on the things that really matter. Acceptance of death, therefore, is a powerful tool of resilience, as it teaches us to face challenges with a broader perspective while keeping our inner strength intact. By living with the awareness that our journey is limited, our ability to act with purpose and wisdom becomes even clearer. This concludes our journey through Marcus Aurelius' lessons on inner strength and resilience. As we've seen throughout the video, each Stoic principle connects in a profound and practical way, helping us navigate life's difficulties with greater balance and serenity. Marcus Aurelius' philosophy offers us powerful tools to strengthen our minds and character, even in the face of the most challenging adversities. If you find value in these teachings, remember that Stoicism is not a distant theory, but a daily practice. I invite you to incorporate these principles into your life, starting today, and experience the true inner strength that comes from living with virtue, purpose, and resilience. If you like the content, please subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to receive an alert every time a new video is released. See you next time.